Have you ever heard somebody say, the Bible has many interpretations? And then they might say, well, my interpretation of the Bible is... And then usually educated folk, sometimes it's called schools of higher learning. I think maybe it's higher learning because, kind of getting high on something. But as far as that goes, they usually will justify not reading the Bible or not believing the Bible because, oh, the Bible is written in mystical language. It's figurative. It's just all figurative. And so it's just a pretty poor excuse of not understanding or taking time to read the Bible. There are two words that will help you and I to understand the Bible, in particular when you're trying to figure out figurative versus literal. And the two words are very small words. One has two letters, as, and the other is like. Like and as. Like and as are one of the two words that a teacher should use continually because analogies or similitudes or parables are the way to really teach truth. You take something a person understands and compare that to something they don't understand. This is what Jesus did when he mentioned to Nicodemus about being born again. Okay, he used the first birth to explain the second birth. Now, like I said, the two words like and as are vital words. Okay, if you go to Acts chapter 8, there's an Ethiopian eunuch. And he is Ethiopian, African. Okay, so he was a religious Jew, meaning he was following the Jewish faith. He was a Jewish proselyte. And he was in the administration of Candace, the queen of the Ethiopians. And he had gone down to Jerusalem for a Jewish holiday or something, and on his way home. And in Acts chapter 8, God told Philip, he said, hey, I want you to go toward the south to Gaza, Gaza Strip. Okay, that's the still name today. Go down to Gaza. It's a desert, and he said, I need you to talk to somebody. Okay, so he said that to Philip, Acts 8:26. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, and eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had the charge of her treasure, had come to Jerusalem for to worship. Was returning and sitting in his chariot, read Isaiah the prophet. So he had a copy of Isaiah, and he is reading the forbidden chapter. The chapter that Jewish rabbis do not want Jews to read. Isaiah 53. Now what he's reading in Isaiah 53 is about a lamb or a sheep. So is he speaking figuratively? You know, people that do this to the Bible all the time, if the baseball season gets started, the Cubs and the Cardinals play, and let's say the Cardinals win 7-4, and a person's reading that in a paper. What's their interpretation? Well, my interpretation is, I believe that the New York Yankees played the Miami Dolphins, and they got 3 goals and then struck out 14 people. I mean, that's just nonsense. It means what it says and says what it means. Sure, there's times that we speak figurative, like hit the road, Jack. You're not telling somebody to go out there and smack the pavement. You're telling them to get lost, get out of here. Okay, now there's times you know that, but in the Bible, when you see those words like and as, that's when you're getting a very, very strong hint of an analogy. Now, this Ethiopian eunuch was reading in Isaiah 53, okay, and evidently he's reading it out loud. He pulled by a rest stop. And in verse 29, it says, the Spirit said unto Philip, go near and join thyself to this chariot. Philip ran thither to him, heard him read the prophet Isaiah, and said, understandest what thou readest. You understand what you're reading, pal? No, sir, I sure don't. Okay, and he said, how can I except some man guide me? So he's asking for help. He desired Philip that he would come up and sit with him. The place of the scripture which he read was this. Okay, he was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and like a lamb dumb before his shearer, so opened he not his mouth. In his humiliation his judgment was taken away, and who shall declare his generation? For his life is taken from the earth. And the eunuch answered Philip and said, I pray thee, of whom speaketh the prophet this, of himself or of some other man? Whoa, he had that pretty well figured out. He was reading about a four-legged animal, but he knew he was talking about a man. He wasn't talking about the nation of Israel. He was talking about a man. Now, how did he figure that out? Well, the words like and as. And in verse 7 of Isaiah, he was oppressed, he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearer is dumb, so opened he not his mouth. You see, the words like and as reveal it was an analogy. An Ethiopian, as a sincere man, figured that out. These people that say, oh, the Bible is a figurative book. I'm telling you, they're not sincere, because they'll figure that out if they were. Now, in Acts chapter 8, when he had gotten that figured out, it's a man, it's a man, I know it's a man, I'm reading about sheep, but I know it's a man, because the words like and as show up. So what did Philip do? He opened his mouth and began at the same scripture and preached unto him Jesus. There we go. There he did. Now, after he preached about Jesus Christ to this eunuch, it says, and as they went on their way, okay, so they got going down the road, they came unto a certain water, and a eunuch said, see, here's water, what doth hinder me to be baptized? So he's asking about water baptism. He'd probably heard about John the Baptist, probably heard about Acts 2, so he's thinking, okay, I probably got to get baptized in water. Now in Acts 8:37, if you got a New International Version, take a look at it. See if you can find it between verse 36 and 38. Now the Jehovah's Witness Bible, they put the number there, but then they put a dash. It makes Bible memory a lot easier. So the next verse is a lot of doubt cast on it, just like Satan doubted what God said back in Genesis 3. Philip said, if thou believest with all thine heart, thou mayest. He didn't say thou must. Thou mayest. And he answered and said, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God. Now you see, this eunuch sincerely, honestly, humbly recognized he was reading about a man. Okay, he was reading, and in that record of a man, sheep or a lamb was mentioned as an analogy, like and as. And then he heard about Jesus Christ, and he placed his faith in Jesus Christ. You see, so the Bible, when it does use figurative language, you'll usually see, not in every case, but you'll usually see the words like and as. Like and as. Now, in the next video, I'm going to show you another example of that. But it's amazing how approximately 1 billion people in the earth has overlooked it.